My name is Sam Otten, and with me is Jason Book. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Superman issue number 41 in the new DC universe. And this is written by Gene Luen Yang with art by John Romita Jr. And this is the Before Truth story arc. So if you've been hearing about all the Superman stuff that's happening, it's all kind of under this banner of truth. And so, spoilers here in this video, but Truth overall is based on his secret identity being revealed. We saw in the sneak peek that was released last month, and these the sneak peeks are all free, so I encourage people to go grab those from Comixology or DC Comics, or they're available free a lot of different places. But we found out that Superman was outed as Clark Kent by none other than Lois Lane herself. But we do not yet know why Lois Lane did it. There seems to definitely be a story there, and it looks like in this Before Truth arc in the Superman book, we might be getting that story. So this one is kind of like really the starting place, even though it's been happening all month, and it's going to be happening for the next few months. So Jason, what did you make of this start that Gene Luen Yang has us going off to?
I thought it was quite good. Like, I liked the writing a lot. I thought it kind of focused on supporting cast and more of a kind of a character-driven Superman story. It did have some action at the beginning, but I like where it's going. The artwork of John Romita was a little spotty at times, like we've gotten used to, but there were some parts where it was good, and I really liked how they kind of gave things a new wrinkle in these days, having social media play an aspect, and Superman kind of, going with somebody via text who knows who he is, and we don't know who they are, and I like that aspect of the story. It keeps me guessing, and I think it was kind of fresh and interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So this new writer, Gene Yang, he really seems to be bringing in the technology, and he has done some interviews where he said the role that information plays in today's society, how information spreads so fast, and everybody has a camera, and people's things can go viral. He actually wants to make that part of the story, and he said that's kind of like one of Superman's nemeses, is that he has to deal with how fast the information spreads. I think that's a really cool idea, and I think it's pretty unique.
Yeah, totally.
In terms of the 75 years of Superman's history, but he's never really been in this day and age of having all these viral videos and information so fast. And I saw that right away. So Gene Yang wrote the 8-page sneak peek for Superman, and that one already had like people on the sidewalk getting out their cameras and getting a shot of Superman before he was able to fly away. That's right, yeah. So he already planted the seeds for the cell phones and the technology, and now I was excited in this issue to see that really continue. The texting, the website. So there's somebody that contacts Clark Kent, and then later on in the issue, that person has a website that reveals Superman. It shows pictures of him. It shows that he's Clark Kent, and it says, if you don't do what I say, then this website's going to go live. So it's kind of a website that's offline right now, but they're threatening to put it online. Yeah. So, that I think was an interesting dynamic, and it really brings this information angle into it. So what did you make of Superman sort of almost getting blackmailed, or for a couple pages there, we thought he was going to maybe give in to this blackmail?
Yeah, it really did seem like that could happen. As I said before, I thought it was an interesting twist. I mean, we've kind of been told through the previews and stuff that Lois has something to do with him, people finding out who he is, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But some of the most interesting ways you can attack Superman or Clark Kent is, mentally, and doing things that don't involve physical, brawn attacking him. And I like things like that because it kind of gives it a different twist.
Yeah, I agreed. I was a little concerned for a page or two when I thought that Superman was giving into the blackmail, because he ended up turning in this informant to the so-called FBI. Right, yeah. And I was like, man, why would Superman do that? He shouldn't just give in and be weak and give in to blackmail. Yeah. But upon second reading, I realized that it was kind of Superman's plan all along, that he would pretend to turn this person in, but then go right outside and rescue them. Exactly. So, yeah, and I caught in an interview with Gene Yang, he said that there's this line where Superman says, "I need a favor from Jimmy." Right. And he's referring to the stealth suit, which I actually thought was really cool. The stealth suit, like a nod to Daredevil type stuff. Totally, yeah. But he says to Jimmy, "I'm going to need a favor," and then he goes and turns in the woman. Then he goes and saves the woman with Jimmy's stealth suit, so he actually had it planned that he was going to save her. Yeah, and the editors at DC, they're not going to let something be written where it doesn't seem in character with who Superman should be, right? Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've been really excited about this Truth arc. So To be honest, I wasn't super excited about the Truth arc when I was first hearing about it and seeing the images of Superman's new look.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was kind of skeptical, pessimistic about it. But
Hmm.
1 month in now, 4 issues in, and I'm reading actually all the Superman books, so
Hmm.
I'm actually really happy with it. I've been really enjoying it, and part of it is just like what you're saying, where it still is the Superman character. He's just going through something new. He's going through
Yeah.
something that he hasn't been through before, but it's the
Hmm.
same person going through all of it.
Yeah, and that's what makes a good Superman story because when a character's been around as long as Superman has, you really have to change things up. And we're seeing that in the Batman title as well too. You know, change can sometimes be really good.
Hmm. One thing I got worried about with the changes to Superman was I was afraid they were going to leave behind some really good threads that Jeff Johns had left. So you and
Yeah.
I have been reading the Superman book for a while,
Yep.
and Jeff Johns, I thought he introduced the super flare or the solar flare power,
Oh
and
yeah, I
then
was
he
happy to see that.
introduced Jimmy as somebody who is now friends with Superman, and Superman let him in on the secret that he's
That's
Clark
right.
Kent.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. Jeff Johns kind of like set those things in place, and
Mm.
then he stepped off of the book.
Yeah.
And when I saw the Truth arc, I thought that like, well, if everybody knows that Superman's Clark Kent, then there's nothing special for Jimmy. Like, there's no special relationship there with Jimmy anymore because everybody knows.
Yeah.
Um, so what I'm really happy about is Gene Yang in the Superman book is actually picking up those threads. He's
Totally.
definitely picking up the solar flare as this kind of thing that Superman's sort of addicted to.
Yeah.
And Gene Yang is still able to have some issues here where Jimmy has this special relationship as the friend who actually knows about Clark Kent and Superman.
Yeah, it feels like they really did a good like baton handoff between
Hmm.
writers, and I'm sure they got together and planned out a few things because honestly, it doesn't feel that different, and I mean that in a good way. Like it feels like it's still part of the same kind of growing storyline, and I like that there's more supporting cast involved because that always makes a good Superman story as well.
Yeah, the Daily Planet stuff was kind of like, yeah, some old callbacks, to like
Yeah,
Lois weaseling her way into the story and kind
mm-hmm.
of taking it over after Jimmy and Clark had done kind of
That's
the
right.
hard work. And then, yeah, definitely some scenes of them like cracking the root beers open to celebrate the story and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Some nice Daily Planet throwbacks.
mm-hmm. It's good.
So another thing that a lot of people have been talking about is so there's 4 Superman books, and Superman 41 here is the last one for the month of June. The others, Action Comics, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, have already come out with their Truth stories, and those 3 actually all take place after Superman. So Superman is before Truth, and it's telling the story of how Superman gets outed and also gets depowered quite significantly. The other books are already telling stories within that world where Superman is outed and he's depowered. A lot of people are complaining and said the Superman should have come first. They want to know the story of how he's outed before they see the others. For me, it hasn't really bothered me at all. I'm kind of going with it where, like, okay, I can tell in those books it's very clear that he's outed and that he's depowered because that's a big part of the story. And then in this one, it's very clear that we're going to get that story of how he was outed. So for me, it hasn't been a problem. I think it's actually to me kind of some cool storytelling. And what the authors have said that they're trying to do is they're trying to make interlocking stories that are independent. So you could read Action Comics or you could read Superman, and it would make sense on its own. But they are interlocking; they'll connect with each other if people are looking for those connections. So, how do you feel? I know you're focusing mostly on the Superman book. How do you feel about this one coming in where it did?
I think it works fine. I mean, like when you have a crossover of a different type, if it wasn't just in the same series of books, having it so someone can read each book and not miss anything that's going on is a huge selling point for someone who doesn't want to buy a lot of books every month. And as well, sometimes it reminds me of in a movie where they'll start the movie kind of an interesting part and not right at the beginning, and it makes for good storytelling sometimes.
Yeah, I feel that way, and like this one, like I found myself enjoying those other books more than I expected. I felt like they really had some heart to them, and then I opened Superman, and it starts with that first page, which is Superman on the plane.
Hmm.
And to me, that first page really meant a lot more because I had read the Action Comics and Batman and Wonder Woman. Because I was seeing how like difficult it's been for Superman to be outed and to be depowered. He's really kind
Hmm.
of going through some pretty intense stuff,
Yep.
and to see him on that plane where he's kind of just trying to get that feeling of flying again because he's
Hmm.
not able to fly in his new depowered state.
Yeah.
So to me, I see like this guy who just misses flying and is trying to get that flying feeling again. So to me, that was nice. But in terms of the storytelling of Superman, it also works just totally on its own because it's just showing you, oh, here's Superman who has different clothes on, he looks different, and he can't fly because why would he be hitching a ride on this plane?
Yeah.
So then now let's go see that story of how he got to that point. So
Yeah.
I feel like it works for the Superman book, but I also feel like it had even more of a punch because I had been seeing how much struggles he's been having in the other books already.
Well, that's right. And it was an interesting place to start it, right? I mean, when's the last time you just seen Superman sitting on a plane, right? So, yeah, it was definitely a good grabber type start to the story.
Yeah. Art-wise, like you said earlier, not the greatest. I think I agreed with you on this issue. There were some spots where I actually thought the art was pretty good, and I do think he lays out a lot of the panels pretty well.
Yeah. There's some rush stuff in there.
Just some of the execution and the faces and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes just throw me off.
Yeah,
and
I
Jimmy
hear ya.
Olsen seems like he's like a little boy now or something. So I don't know if he's like regressing in age or something. But so yeah, I mean, to me, I've been pleasantly surprised this whole month, and for this issue, I like what Yang's doing with the technology and the information.
Yeah.
And I like how Yang is playing around with the super flare and having the supporting cast and things. So I feel like it's off to a strong start.
Yeah, I think so too. And, you know, it's a good time to be a Superman fan. What they're doing with these books and changing up the status quo, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily going to be forever
Nope.
because we can already see solicitations for 3 or 4 months from now. He might be back to the old suit, New
Oh, yeah.
52 suit.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a permanent change, which I think is good too. I don't think like the jeans and t-shirt and motorcycles should be permanent.
Yeah.
But I feel like what he's going through right now, I think can be a really good story. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm definitely enjoying it.